Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the second of the 3 webinars in this series brought to you by the Ateneo Center for English Language Teaching and the Department of Education. So, allow me to express our gratitude to our DepEd Secretary, Sonny Angara, Undersecretary Dr. Wilfredo Cabral, Assistant Secretary Dr. Carmela Oracion, our very own, and the National Educators Academy of the Philippines, or NAEP, through the leadership of Director Dr. Jennifer Lopez for their support. This webinar series is part of ASIL's mission to upgrade the standards in English language and literature education in the country and its neighboring countries by providing basic and higher education teachers, teacher trainers, and educational and school leaders with programs that are based on contextualized approaches to English language teaching, which are anchored on current pedagogical issues and developments in the use of English in the country and the region. This second webinar focuses on teaching strategies for multilingual English language learners for key stages 1 and 2. For this webinar, we have 2 objectives. First is to engage everyone in this room in a conversation on evidence-based teaching practices specifically designed for multilingual learners with emphasis on early literacy and language development. And then we also want to discuss how we can empower educators like you, like us, with adaptable strategies to enhance learners' English proficiency while preserving their cultural and linguistic diversity. I'm Cecilia A. Suarez, or Cheche, Executive Director of the Ateneo Center for English Language Teaching, or ASEL. I'm your moderator and also a panel member in today's webinar. With me are well-respected educators and scholars in the country. I will introduce each of them before their respective turns. Our first panel member and resource speaker is Dr. Mary Ruth M. Gutierrez, full professor designated at the College of Advanced Studies of the Philippine Normal University, Manila. Dr. Mary Ruth Moralda Gutierrez is a senior faculty serving as program lead in graduate reading education. She is a consultant and resource speaker of DepEd's Bureau of Curriculum Development, or BCD, for the National Reading Program and for the Matatag English Language Curriculum. She served PNU as head of Center for Reading and Literacy, Director of Graduate Research Office, and Graduate College Representative to University Curriculum Management and Instructional Materials Office under the leadership of Vice President for Academics. Everyone, please welcome Dr. Mary Ruth Gutierrez on teaching strategies for multilingual English language learners. Dr. Mary Ruth.
Hello. Sorry. Hi. Good morning.
Good morning, ma'am.
Yes, everyone. So, yes, it's my turn now?
Yes, ma'am. You can start anytime.
Yes, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us on the second run of our webinar. Last of this will be this May 30 or 31. So hopefully you join us again to finish this conversation. We know, but this is but the tip of the iceberg, and there are more that we'd like to share later on. And hope you hang on there and you be with us until the end, the last session. Today, I am tasked to talk about multilingual teaching strategies for multilingual English language learners. May we show my slide now, please? Doctor, are we sharing?
Yes, Dr. Ruth, this is your slide now.
So how are you today? This is but so short, 1.5 hours, 15 minutes each, and we'll give more time for questions, clarifications, and maybe next session later on. Yes, good morning. We are reading your greetings from Urdaneta, Zamboanga, Palawan, and from different parts of the country. Yes. Thank you. Thank you
Approve
for being with us. Are we
yes.
okay now, Ma'am Chair?
Yes. It's been up. Your slide is up.
It's up. How come I cannot see? But can you see?
Can everybody see the slide? Yes. They're giving me a thumbs up. No.
Okay. So I
Yes,
think
yes.
only me. Only I cannot see it. Okay, let's get started.
Yes.
Okay, the topic given me for 15 minutes is teaching strategies for multilingual English language learners. Focus on Key Stage 1 and Key Stage 2. Well, we have several trainings and seminars on the framework of keys of our English language curriculum, giving the strengthened curriculum. Nonetheless, I'd just like to point out and highlight here that the framework focuses on 3 domains with varying foci or focus depending on the grade level. For instance, Key Stage 1, you know the 3 big ideas there in our framework. There is literacy, language, and text. The interplay of these 3 important big ideas changes focus depending on the key stage. Key stage 1 focuses on literacy with the assistance of language and text as our vehicles for learning our target language. Now, literacy for Key Stage 1 has several competencies there, but it's easy to recall that it's arranged from enabling to permanent skill. Enabling meaning from receptive skills in language learning, moving on to the productive skills of speaking and writing. There are several positive affordances that the curriculum offers us, specifically for language learning in English and Filipino. There are more practice exercises, time allotment given for productive skills, because the idea is to produce literate, communicative people competent enough using different competencies that we can teach them in our language instruction. For the second key stage, the change of focus now is on language. Now, the receptive and productive specifies the different macro skills. Nevertheless, the end would be the publication, sharing of ideas, or speaking and writing. The productive skills are highlighted in our Matatag curriculum. The third key stage is on the text. Well, it's text production, more on academic, creative text, but we shall have it next time. Now, next slide, please. So those are things we need to remember about the curriculum. For Key Stage 1 literacy, it is, but vehicle would be language and the use of text. For second key stage, we focus more on language, but again, aided by their literacy and the text that they encounter along the way. Next slide shows you, from the title, we have the kind of learner discussed there. Take note that the learners are multilingual. When we say multilingual, we simply mean with different language sources, and that these languages serve as enabling cognitive resources for acquiring the target language, which is English in this case. We call it our target language because there is one subject devoted to learning that language. Filipino is also a target language in our curriculum because there is one allotted to that for teaching and learning. Oh, we don't have mother tongue anymore because mother tongue is not a target language. It is a resource language. When we say resource language, we mean the different cognitive affordances, what students, what learners use to be able to communicate in the classroom for academic learning and transaction of meaning. Next slide, please. So I'm highlighting the nature of multilingual learners, ELLs or ELs to make it short. What is our view of multilingualism? Is it a positive or negative phenomenon in our country? We used to view that there are what do we call that? Dominant languages, which is English, which are English and Filipino. Although rather than calling them dominant languages, I'd call them our national languages, as our constitution, no, clearly indicates. We shall be using English and Filipino side by side. What's the role of mother tongue? Those are our resources, cognitive resources. The more languages we know, the better that we have resources for facilitating learning, for interacting, so to speak. So our view is that several languages, is not a disadvantage. It's an advantage towards learning your target language, which is English. Yes, it's a phenomenon now that English has become like a first language to many of our students. Yet it is still considered a target language when we have one subject to study this English that we know. So we have language resources, being multilingual. That is our source language. Maybe to be plural, it's source languages. And we talked about the new law saying that it will be English and Filipino as the national languages, yet our mother tongue plays role as auxiliary languages for facilitating learning. We're not saying there's no more mother tongue there, but we no longer label it as mother tongue. In one article by Cyril Belvis, which I co-authored, it's titled Amorphous Language, which is the you're not talking about any form at all. I think now that the right term that you're using is to trans-language. It's not just mother tongue. It goes beyond mother tongue because all languages available for our students may be used in our classroom. But again, that's not our target language. That's to facilitate the learning of our target language, which is English. So that's the role played by multilingualism. Okay? We're not anti-multilingual. We appreciate and we use it so that we can transition to acquiring our target language. Okay? Next. In classroom context, how do we apply this? Diverse linguistic resources come into play, not forgetting that English is the target language to learn. So is it a crime to speak your tongue? It's not. No, that is actually robbing our students of their identity, of their cultural affiliation, of their own voices. So we want to hear them. But again, this voice is their language resources, or as many languages that they can use for communication and share to others. We appreciate them and we use them, not forgetting the fact that we are transitioning them towards acquiring another language. Okay? So the role played by multilingualism is so important that the more that we use it, the better we transition to becoming proficient in another language. And in this case, it's in English. Well, in Filipino, if I may say. Next. So you see there from multilingual context of our Philippine classrooms to the learning of our target language through gradual psychological unfolding. What I'm going to say in gradual psychological unfolding, though it is really an old term, applied to our classroom, language learning classroom, it means giving the linguistic resources as affordances to our students for as long as they help communicate express their ideas. And then later on is slowly guiding them towards acquiring another language. So the more comprehensible input that we have for our students, the better that they can transition. Not forget their own language, but have more, an additional language that they can use for, say, other purposes. Okay. So that's part of our gradual psychological unfolding, giving multilingualism a role in our classroom. Secondly, the kind of text that we give our students. Definitely, you have heard about readability, matching, ease, or difficulty of the text, depending on the grade level, with quantifiable measures of words, syllables, lengths of sentences, plus match it with qualitative elements by leveling, not only readability, but qualitatively, we have the leveling or text leveling. You look at the concepts contained, the topics discussed, the vocabulary contained. Putting these two together would, and matching it with where our students are, could be one way that we provide unfolding, scaffolding, transitioning to one, from one language to another. Next slide, please. So, by the way, I did not do any more the 30-second listing of your purposes for choosing your strategies. Anyway, after discussing about multilingualism and our classroom context, we now proceed to the teaching strategies given that context of multilingualism. Well, there are several purposes for choosing our strategies. Listed here are 6. I wonder which are common purposes that you have for choosing certain strategies. The first is to improve student engagement. Well, how we measure student engagement, the happier they are, the better. The noisier, the better. The more time spent, the better. How do we measure engagement? For as long as they are busy? I'm sorry, yes? Somebody's raising a hand. Medard? May I entertain your question later on? Let me just finish given 15 minutes. Okay. Second is, why do we choose a strategy? It's to enhance understanding of the lesson, but more towards literacy of the text given for reading. For early reading, our model for teaching literacy and language is still yours. It's called Text Integration Literacy Instruction for Emergent Readers. Your discussion is always with a text. You have a text and you show the text to teach them from print awareness, directionality, interaction, meaning making, and transferring knowledge, skills learned. Next is to develop critical thinking. Well, we do not believe that the critical thinking is measured through the questions, through the beginning questions asked. I hope you don't tell me that questions beginning with how are critical and why are critical. It becomes critical when it demands evaluation, it demands an analysis and several cognitive processes rather than one that meets the eye. The more difficult, more complex the cognitive processing required, the more critical it becomes. Simply put, critical thinking is looking at the text per se and evaluating merits, demerits, plus minuses of a given text. Next, so that's the third. Student engagement, enhance understanding, develop critical thinking. To promote active learning, well, I hope this becomes a student-centered learning, actively engaged. I cannot separate student engagement with active learning here. More than teacher talk. This time it's more time for students doing something, sharing, teacher providing feedback, and so on. Now, one article or journal article said the missing ingredient in the classroom is time on task. Students now have less time to do the task. They have more time to listen, workbook, but not really to produce or to share whatever it is that they have produced, which the current curriculum tries to avoid. Next, it's to increase retention. I hope they retain important ideas. Take note that when we read, not all ideas are of equal importance. So they retain only important ideas, and our strategies help that. And finally, it is to encourage collaboration. So these are several purposes that we use for selecting appropriate strategies for classroom instruction. Now let's see, what are some sample strategies for multilingual English language learners? Now I am more to the point now. I'm not talking about principles here. I'm just giving you sample, just snippets or sample strategies you can use in your multilingual classroom, taking consideration that there is multilingualism, but our target language is English. We are model of using it. We allow different languages, yes, but in the end, transitioning towards the target language. Okay, one strategy listed here is called anticipation guide, followed by word sort, and then question answer detail, each telling you how different one is from the other. For example, I hope you are showing, you can see here a picture, a front page of a book. Can you see it? Okay. You could use it for Key Stage 1, and maybe from here, get a text, try to apply the strategy for Pre-Stage 2. Now, when you look at this picture, front page of a book, we can see here the image, there's a dog and a man. And you may discuss, let your students discuss, share. But the strategy begins, next slide. The anticipation guide. Are you there? For grade 1 or grade 2, the simple instruction is to tell me, guess whether it is yes or no. Just guess. Before we read the story about this picture, king and a dog, let us see if your guesses about the story are correct. Just tell me whether yes or no. Okay? So the teacher prepares these sentences coming from the story. And so the teacher says, tell me, is it yes or no? The king is thin. And students answer yes, don't explain yet. Let's anticipate and find out later on if our answers are correct. Next, the dog is fat. No, teacher. Let us see. The king sees a bird. Let's guess. Do you think this is in a story? Is it yes or a no? And then the king runs and runs. Yes or no? And they would say, teacher, we don't. Yeah, that's why I want you to guess so that you are into the text right away. You are not yet reading the text, but you are slowly into it. No? Let me see if you are right or wrong. That's what we call as the cognitive resources affordances, trying to engage right away, even when they, out of nowhere, they don't know. But at least you are zeroing in on what you want to teach them given that text. And then, next, the dog gets seen. Guess. Yes, Leonard, you're correct. Yes, you guessed. Perhaps you guess it right. I'm not saying yet. We will read and find out. Let's repeat. The king is thin. Your answer is no. The dog is fat. Yes. The king sees a bird. Yes. The king runs and runs. Yes. The dog gets seen. No. Now let us see. And we read. And so now, another GPU is your manner of reading the text, your intonation. Wow, we miss Brother Aguirre here, and he could have modeled us how to do storytelling. Huh? The more stimuli that we give our students, that we are our own strategies. The way we read, we enunciate, the pacing, the voice, characterization, already helps our young learners. And mind you, even many adults enjoy being read to. And so let us see. Are you now seeing the title of the story we are going to read is? Can you now read the title? The Fat King and the Thin Dog. This is a fat king. The fat king has a thin dog. Oh, now are we correct? Later on we see. The fat king and his thin dog go for a walk. The dog sees a bird. The dog runs after the bird. They run and run. They run and run for many days. The king catches the dog. Now, the fat king is thin. Now, the fat king is thin. Can you see on the page where the king is? Is the king still there? It cannot be visible, perhaps has become so thin, emaciated, stick-like that we could hardly see the king anymore. Now, before we discuss further, let's go back to our anticipation guide. Are we correct? So we go back and let's see. The king is thin. According to the story, is the king thin? Okay, now you explain why. Yes. The dog is fat. Was your answer correct? What did the story say? Okay. The king sees a bird. Oh, who saw? In the story, he saw a bird. Was it the king or the dog? It was the dog who saw the bird. The king runs and runs. Is this yes or no? Yes, yes. But is it only the king that runs and runs? Or the dog too? Both of them for many days. But in the end, the dog gets thin. It's not the dog that gets thin. It's the fat king becoming thin. Could you tell me why? The king got thin? Yes, thank you for participating. Although I'm in a hurry now to maximize my time. Yes. So now you tell me, what purpose do I have for selecting the strategy anticipation guide? Did I hit all of those at the same time? Or could I do more so that I could add other purposes as well? Now, you talk about it later on, and perhaps some of your questions will be coming from this discussion, but definitely, hopefully, we vary the purposes of our choice of strategy. It's not just for student engagement. It's just for motivation. It is not just for enjoyment. And after that 10 minutes of enjoyment, no more motivation, we cannot sustain what happens to actual lesson. All throughout our strategies help us, create an effective learning environment for our students. You can do the same, given the same text, but doing word sort. The name of the strategy is simply word sort. Oh, ang dali naman pala, ma'am. Oo, in reality, you can create your own strategy depending on the purpose that you want to, how much time you have, and how deep you'd like to dwell into that text. Word sort. Look at the instructions. Which words should go together? Sort them. Just put together words that should be together based on the story that we have read. Okay? This one is called closed word sort because they have a clue as a guide. They have a guide how to put the words together. They have the category there. The closed word sort has a category, but the opposite, open word sort, doesn't have any category at all. So sort the words. Here are the words, and I read. King, runs, becomes thin, flies, dog, go for a walk, fat, thin, bird. Which word should go together, you think? Yes, Rebecca, Magno. And Ma'am Rebecca says, Ma'am, I think the king is my clue because the king runs, the king becomes thin, the king goes for a walk also with the dog. Right, you are. So 3 words can go together. King, runs, becomes thin. 4, go for a walk. Could there be other category and other words that go with that category? What about dog? What words go with dog based on the story? First, the dog is seen. The dog also goes for a walk with the king. The dog also runs, right? So you can see how words can be sorted given this clue. What about bird? Bird, only one word can be associated with it. Wala. Flies. There, flies. So there are 3 categories. King, dog, and bird. The king becomes thin. The king is fat. The king goes for a walk. The king runs. Yes. Then the dog goes for a walk, runs with the king. And finally, the bird flies. These are the words we encountered and how we group them together. And these are 3 characters or 2 characters you need to remember on the story that we have read. That's word sort for you. And finally, just the last one. We have question answer detail. It's just like a matrix. There's a grid. You put 3 columns, write questions. Initially, you write questions. Later on, you tell them to write their own questions. Give the answer, whether the answer is there from the text or their own, for as long as they can give answer. And then the detail. They can give elaboration, explanation, further information about their answer. For example, who sees a bird? And the answer, write your answer, dog. What's the detail? Well, based on the story, paragraph 3 or 3rd page, it says the dog sees a bird. Now you are harnessing what the text says, literally. But later on, we said our strategy is also for critical thinking. We establish what is in the text, then we go beyond the text. Next, how does the king become thin? And they answer, and they provide, and they speak, and later on they can write. If you want to summarize, to synthesize, write simple sentences, joining this together can be their output already for your grade 1 learner. Or later on, try to help them make their own questions, no matter the questions. In our classroom, all questions are important where they come from our students. Okay, and then we process. Simple 3 strategies. Don't tell me, Ma'am, can I use it before, while, and after reading? You decide. Wherever you put them, for as long as they play their significant purpose for being there. I'd like to end, hopefully I'm still on time, by quoting this. The teaching strategies aim to create an inclusive, engaging, and effective learning environment where we lose our importance as a teacher, we talk less, we offer more time, more chances for students to shine and speak and write, to practice learning their English coming from different cognitive language cognitive resources. Thank you for listening. Ma'am Chair.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mary Gutierrez. Can we give her a big round of applause, or virtual applause? Thank you so much. we see a lot of messages and questions also in the chat box. We'll get back to you in a little while. We first would like to move on to our panel discussion and open forum. And again, we are talking about teaching strategies for multilingual English language learners, and we're focusing on key stages 1 and 2, hence the examples that you got from Dr. Ruth. Before we proceed, may I remind everyone, as you engage in the conversation through our panel discussion and open forum, please make sure that you are aware of this, that by participating in this event, you are granting us your permission to be part of the recording, which is ongoing. The photos and videos that may be used in our official website, social media platforms, and the ASL forum, and also in our ASL-initiated research and publications. If you are not comfortable to give us your consent, please feel free to leave the room. We already have about 189 people in the room. So everyone, please help me in welcoming another member of the panel. And she is Asuki, an ASL Tsuki, in terms of these webinars, Ms. Ayet Ferriols. She is currently taking up Doctor of Philosophy in Applied Linguistics at the De La Salle University, Manila, where she also earned her Master of Arts degree in teaching the English language. She holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in English and graduated magna cum laude from the Polytechnic University of the Philippines. She taught English in a number of universities and local higher education institutions, including the De La Salle University and the National University in Manila, and was involved in various research and training on language teaching before finally becoming a curriculum specialist in English for the Department of Education Central Office. As part of the Bureau of Curriculum Development, Ms. Ayet Ferriols, the nature of her work involves crafting the national curriculum framework, standards, and policies, and managing and providing technical assistance in various programs such as capacity building for teachers and development of learners' materials. Currently, Ms. Ferriols serves as the Supervising Education Program Specialist for English and Mother Tongue and the Program Lead for the NRP, or the National Reading Program. Everyone, please help me welcome Ms. Ayet. Ms. Ayet, you might want to greet everyone and join me and Doc Ruth.
Thank you very much once again, Doc Che, and to the whole team of ASELT for having me once again in this very meaningful and very significant webinar. And thank you also to our teachers and other stakeholders who took time out of their busy weekends to join us in this event. Maraming salamat po sa oras ninyo.
Yeah, so welcome again, Doc Ruth and Ms. Ayet. Please join me now in this panel discussion. But before we begin, kasi we did not get to do this as we started the webinar earlier today, can we greet our participants and read their greetings in their mother tongues? Yung iba may, okay, good morning, magandang umaga, meron tayong mga, can you greet us in your own mother tongues? Medyo mahaba na yung, yes, malayo na yung mga ibang greetings. Yan, naimbag na bigat. Maayong aga, maupay nga adaw, mayap aabak kayo, o yan, Kapampangan. I think I recognize that. Yan, ang dami. Thank you so much. There are now 192 people in the room. And so, Doc Ruth and Miss Ayet, are you ready? Sige.
Yes, we're ready, ma'am.
Yan. I'd like to begin. Please allow me, Miss Ayet, mauna na ako magtanong. I'd like to begin with the first question to go back to what Doc Ruth was talking about earlier in relation to multilingualism. Doc Ruth, are you there? Baka kailangan muna ng a few moments.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, sige po. Ang question ko is this. So, what then is the role of multilingualism in learning English as a target language for
Thank
our
you.
learners?
Yes. Yes, thank you. It's a source language, or they are language sources, language resources. When we
So
say
I
language resources, positive, it's just like a mine where when you allow your students to go dig deep and use that, you will discover a lot of things about them.
uh-huh.
And we use that, well, if not as a pedagogy, although I suppose it goes beyond pedagogy, the role of your mother tongue or multilingual is more than pedagogy. It really is the flow of your classroom interaction. The classroom interaction allows for multiple sources of languages to be used, which hopefully the teachers understand and come to understand through that interaction. But later on, leading towards that target language. Because if we do not transition them from these multiple sources to target language, then we might not be using the time allotted for English language learning. So that although you have your focus target language, do not forget that you are interacting with students coming from different linguistic, cultural backgrounds. And we already said, along with language is the cultural identity that goes with it. So when we understand and we allow use of different languages, we also come to understand the culture of our students and is slowly transitioning them. No, that's the role that I hope we see in our classroom, the relationship between multilingualism and target language. In fact, part of being multilingual of our students, one of their cognitive resources could be English. Undeniably, many claim our students now, young learners, are very good in conversational English because of technology, social media, and varied exposures that the students get. Yes, they may use that as their resource in interacting at the flow of our learning interaction. But definitely, there is a target language. We do not forget that. And that target language is English, no, for English subject. And we have Filipino for Filipino subject. Filipino can also be a language resource. That's why I'm saying it goes beyond mother tongue already. Beyond mother tongue, we have language resources. And the more that our students have, the better for them that we help transition from one to another. I think that's the role played by multilingualism in our English class.
Thank you so much for that clarification, Dr. No, I think Miss Ayet will have something to say as well in relation to that.
Yes, Doc Che, thank you. And thank you very much, Ma'am Ruth, for concretizing all of the ideas, the concepts that we shared in our shaping paper. Ano? Now, just to make sure that our message is clear, allow me to quickly just share my screen. And this is something that you all have already seen. Ano? This is a part of our curriculum guide. Ayan. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes, we can see it
Yes,
now.
okay. It's a bit small, ano? Hindi ko na po siya masyadong i-zoom. But you will find at the end of our curriculum guide, we have prepared for you 8 appendices. That's 8 appendices for the perusal of our teachers for their utilization in order for them to help understand how to effectively deliver our curriculum guide. Marami kasing feedback ano po sa central office. Ang daling sabihin na mother tongue is going to be used as an auxiliary language towards the development or the attainment of the target language, which is Filipino or English. But how do we actualize that in the classroom? And so, teachers, we got you, ano? If you take a look at Appendix 2A, this is a lesson exemplar for Key Stage 1. And as you know, as effectively summed up by Ma'am Ruth, Key Stage 1 focuses on literacy. If I may say so myself, this is the most important of all the big ideas because this is the foundation. And so we need to do this well. We need to deliver Key Stage 1 effectively. And how do we do that? For those of you who are in a community whose mother language is not Filipino and is not English, nakikita po natin sa chat box kanina, no, ang dami, ang gaganda ng mga Philippine languages natin. And for us to share it here is just an amazing Ito yung mga wonders of technology that we get together despite of where we are. But I digress. Okay, going back, if you're part of a community whose language is not Filipino or English, this appendix is for you. So this is a lesson exemplar, an MT-based lesson for teaching English. So if you enjoy making lesson plans, maybe you can consider creating a lesson plan that looks like this, okay? In the first page of the appendix, it tries to integrate all of the themes across all of the learning areas. Katulad po ng palagi naming sinasabi, as a language subject, you do not simply teach language. You serve as the vehicle towards the acquisition of content that is also delivered in other languages. And so it's very important for us to also take into consideration other subjects like GMRC, Makabansa, math, and science, because it is through the acquisition of the target language that we help our learners better understand the content that is delivered in these other learning areas. Okay? So right here, we have a mapping of all of the common themes in grade 2. Okay? And if you go further down, I'm going to show you a concrete example of how mother tongue is used to deliver our curriculum guide. Ayan, nakikita niyo po ba? You will find here some activity. So we start off with a pre-listening activity, and I'd like you to take a look at the instructions, okay? The teacher will say, listen as I read to you 10 basic sight words for this week. So remember, we are teaching English, okay? So we're going to teach them 10 basic sight words. We're going to tell our learners, do not talk, just listen for the first time. In the second time, I will read each word and you will have to repeat after me. In the third time, I will ask you to read the words on your own. And using this practice, we hope to make our learners understand and read these basic sight words, okay? Hopefully with automaticity. If you take a look further down the page, you will find another pre-listening activity, okay? And you will find that this pre-listening activity is also translated into a mother language. Kung meron po tayong mga taga-Pangasinan dito, this is your mother language because our curriculum writers actually came from Pangasinan. Ayan. So, the listening activity is first explained to the learners using their mother tongue para po maintindihan nila. And then the teacher translates these instructions into the target language, which is English. Okay, so it's very clear right here. And then we have a note to the teacher. Read each guide question twice, first in the mother tongue and then in English. And then make sure that they understand. You can repeat it as many times as you want. Just make sure that your learners truly understand what you are trying to tell them. Okay? Okay. And then we proceed with the actual story. So this is the during listening activity. Again, we have our instructions translated in the mother language, and we also have the story itself translated in the mother language before it is introduced in the target language. So dito po we concretize Ma'am Ruth's discussion where we make use of the mother tongue in aid of the development of the target language, which in this case is English. So I invite everyone to please take a look at the appendices. Okay?
35 na lang, sugar.
Okay. So hindi tayo matatapos doon sa ating curriculum guide. You go down further along the document and you will find that we have prepared appendices there for you to make delivery easier so that you understand what we say when we talk about using the mother tongue as auxiliary to achieving proficiency in the target language. So this is just one of the examples because in today's discussion, we focused on literacy. This is our lesson exemplar for literacy. Of course, it's a little bit more straightforward if your mother tongue is Filipino or English. Ano po, mas madali. But if your mother tongue is not Filipino or English, maybe this lesson exemplar could be helpful for you. And I hope that this concretizes, it makes explicit what we mean when we talk about using the mother tongue in the English classroom. At kahit po ano pang batas ang lumabas, the mother tongue always has space in our language classrooms. And I hope that you teachers also embody that. Thank you po.
Well, thank you so much for that, Miss Ayet. I think I just want to share what we've been doing also with NAYAP, as many of you know. And the document that you showed is very consistent with what we have been doing and on pedagogical translanguaging, because we see very clearly the translation, if you know that translation is one pedagogical strategy. a translanguaging, pedagogical translanguaging strategy. And the translation that you did in that document is very helpful in terms of, again, helping students understand the concepts that we're introducing. And so I would like to go back to the activity that was shared earlier by Ma'am Ruth on the question answer detail grid. I hope everybody remembers that that slide here where, wait, let me show that so that you also know, you remember what I'm talking about. This one. So in the context of using our local languages, our home languages as a resource, I think if you're going to look at this activity, for allowing the students, for asking the students to make their own questions, maybe we can ask them or allow them to use their home language in asking questions. So your examples are probably in English, but given the document just shared by Ms. Ayet, you can have a translation in parentheses. Either it's your option whether to put the different home languages, because remember, it's possible for one to have more than one mother tongue. Okay, so you know the context of your classroom. So if you need to give just the lingua franca as a translation, then maybe you can do that. But it's up to you. But remember that we are allowed to do that. We should not feel guilty about doing that in the classroom. That to use the resources of our students in helping them understand the concepts that we're introducing. So maybe in the first two items of your examples, your questions, you can have the translation. And in the other questions that the students will ask, maybe you can ask them first to ask in their own home language. And that way, you also eliminate the fear of making mistakes in English, the fear of not being accepted because they cannot speak another language except their own. So that's where multilingualism and particularly translanguaging, pedagogical translanguaging can come in. Is that okay, Dr. Ruth, since this is your example? Is that possible to be done?
Yes. Yes, sorry. Yes,
okay.
yes, it's possible, Doc Che. As many stimuli that we can offer our students to use their own languages, and then later on learning the concepts, content, and the language at the same time. Yes,
Hey, thank
good
you so
idea.
much. Yeah. Maybe Miss Ayat, you might want to help me look for some questions in the chat box if we have some. I think I've seen quite a number of questions already. There's one here from Sir Raymond Constantino. In what ways can a teacher balance content mastery and language acquisition without overwhelming multilingual learners? Who would like to, Miss Ayat, you might want to answer that.
Okay, yes. Okay, I'll answer this. And I will answer this using one of my most favorite theories ever. And this has to do with age-related differences in language acquisition. So this is a theory posited by Skehan in 1998. Okay, according to Skehan, two systems coexist. So one is a rule-based analytic procedural system, and the other is a formulaic exemplar-based declarative system. In the latter, which is the exemplar-based declarative system, it recognizes the child as like a sponge that simply absorbs all of the stimulus, all of the inputs provided to him or her, and then somehow organizes all of these knowledge in that when they produce their language outputs, maganda, no? Maayos ang grammar, medyo may konting pagkakamali, but it is already comprehensible. Okay? So according to Skehan, there is no such thing as overwhelming a learner. You can give learners all of the input that you would like. You can provide them with all of the exemplars that you would like, and they would just absorb it. Because at that point in time, during that age, okay, they work based on this exemplar-based declarative system, kung saan i-absorb lang nila lahat yan. And then, the analytical part would come later. So this is where the overwhelming comes in, ano? Kaya tumataas yung affective filters, kaya medyo limited na yung ating pag-absorb ng information because we're aging na. But for kids, there's no worry about giving them a lot of reading materials, giving them all of these concepts that you want them to be exposed to, as long as of course these concepts are age and developmentally appropriate. Yun lang yung sisiguraduhin natin as teachers, as facilitators of knowledge. But in terms of exposing them to all of these information, I don't think that they will be overwhelmed based on this theory, and they will just absorb it like sponge. Okay? Okay, so I hope that answers the question.
Okay. Miss Ayat, you might want to identify one or two questions from the chat box, but before we get to that question, ready na lang please. I have another question for Ma'am Ruth. Ma'am Ruth, my question:
Yes.
when do strategies help create inclusive, engaging, and effective learning environment? Kasi nga, the question that Ms. Ayat addressed earlier has something to do with that as well. When do you think these strategies can help create
Okay.
engaging and effective learning
Yes,
environment?
if I may use the technical term by Vygotsky, it's our scaffolding. For language learning, it is our comprehensible input and focus on comprehensible. It is second nature for teachers to have input because we feel we haven't taught without any input at all. But the question remains, is the input comprehensible? So what makes an input comprehensible? So that we create a language learning environment that is engaging, inclusive, and effective. What makes something comprehensible? And Ma'am Ayat mentioned about affective filter. Emotion plays an important part. If you go to brain-based learning, and many of you know this, there should be pattern, there should be emotion, and there should be relevance. If there is no such thing as overwhelming input or putting all together this that students seem to be so apparently overburdened, maybe it's not because they are overwhelmed, but because the input is not so comprehensible, forgetting about our scaffolding, forgetting about how we can provide them stimuli that leads them to see pattern, that they can generalize, that to relate emotion, and later on to find relevance in whatever it is that we do. Affect always plays a significant role. Kaya nga meron tayong tinatawag na socio-emotional learning. Kahit na ang kadalasan ng ating mga objectives, behavioral objectives, always in the cognitive domain. But definitely these three are inseparable. Cognitive, emotion, affective, and psychomotor. When all these are put together, so your learning environment can be characterized as such. When you put together all these elements, scaffolding, comprehensible input with relevance, students can see patterns, and there is emotion, positive, not very critical, although that's part of it, positive emotion that students feel they are part of it. They own learning. Express their ideas the way that they know how, the best way they can. And that's how we try to create inclusive. All languages are important. All languages contribute towards acquiring another language. Thank you, Ma'am Ayat. Ma'am Che.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Doc Ruth. Ms. Ayat, meron tayong questions?
Yes, so this is a question specifically addressed to Ma'am Ruth. Ma'am Ruth, Ma'am Josenia Constantino is asking, how can we ensure that Filipino or the mother tongue is effectively used as a transitional resource language to support English language learning without allowing students to become overly reliant on it to the point that it hinders their development in English?
Well, Carmen has an answer to that, Ma'am Ayat. You cannot expect them to learn English if they haven't mastered their first language, the law of transference, right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
if they are not very good in Filipino and you want them to learn in English, perhaps you work side by side on these two.
Mhm.
There is no such thing as one language hindering the other if we help students transition. That's why I use the term transition from one to the other. Although Cummings said there is that phenomenon called as language interference, but there is also language transference. As teachers, we allow our students that transference to take place
Mhm.
so that they're Filipino becoming good or better, and later on they can acquire another language so they can be good at it or of equal competence given two languages. Again, because these are our national languages.
Thank you, Ma'am Ruth. I would like to address that as well, because this concern is probably not just Ma'am Josenia's, but many other teachers share the same probably fear or misgiving. But we have to remember that if we do something right, then the benefits, we will be able to reap the benefits. So, for example, in terms of the use of the local languages in our classrooms, particularly the English classroom, we refer to it as translanguaging. And when you do translanguaging, you have to do it deliberately, purposefully, judiciously. That means that when you do translanguaging, meaning you use the local languages of the students in facilitating learning, you plan it. It's not anything goes, as what we always say. Hindi siya bara-bara. It's not something that you do on a whim. It is something that you plan. For example, in the activities and the strategy shared with us earlier, if as a teacher, you already know at what particular part of your lesson the students will have a difficulty understanding the concept you're introducing. For example, dun sa a question and answer detail strategy introduced earlier, then you can plan that at this point of the lesson, you will allow students, you also will model the use of their home languages. But for always, because English is the target language, the output, the final output or the formal output of the student should always be in English. And there should always be, again, a balance between their exposure to the English language, the target language, and the use of the other languages in the classroom. Again, if you do it deliberately and purposefully, then you will be able to help develop the students' literacy and desired level of proficiency. So, yun lang. One thing we have to remember is that their teachers need to be trained on how to do that. And that's what we're doing with NEA. We're doing the trainer training, the first stage of the trainer training. And we're hoping that by next year, many of you will become part of the teacher training. And of course, we're going to make use of the materials being developed by the team of Ms. Ayet. That's why I was happy to see that the documents were very consistent with the outputs that we required our participants for the pedagogical translanguaging training. So yon, I hope that we addressed your question, Ma'am Josenia. Okay, Ms. Ayet, meron pa ba? Do we have other questions?
Yes, we have a question here. If we use a Filipino translation of the text and questions for better understanding, and students answer in Filipino, would this be allowed even though we are teaching English? Ayan, parang para sa akin yung
Ay,
tanong, ano daw?
Daloda.
Parang para sa akin yung
Just
Doc
like,
Che.
sige,
Yes.
go.
Okay, so this is a question that always pops up when we talk about translanguaging in the classroom. And of course, using the curriculum guide as our document, as our resource. The answer to this question, the straight answer is yes. It has to be allowed because the only means of us being able to help our students attain proficiency in the target language. And remember that this language is not always their mother language, or this language is not always a language that is commonly used in their community or the lingua franca, then it is inevitable that we make use of the mother tongue to help support understanding in that target language. And so if the students begin with answering in Filipino, then yes, we can allow that. But remember that there always has to be a target. So we can tolerate that, okay? But we have to limit it, because at the end of the day, what is our goal? What is one of the goals of our English curriculum and all of the languages curriculum? It is communicative competence in the target language. And so if you feel that, okay, medyo napaparami na yung Filipino natin, napapabayaan na natin itong target language natin, then we redirect. Okay, as facilitators in the classroom, we redirect the discussion, we make sure that we let them try, okay? We provide a safe space so that they try expressing themselves, not just in the language that they're comfortable with, which is Filipino or the other mother tongues, but also in the target language. So the straight answer to this is yes, and hopefully through this platform that it has been generously provided by ASELT and all of the other webinars that DepEd is engaged in, we also inform not just the teachers, kasi yung mga guro alam na nila to because they read the curriculum guides and they know what they need to do inside the classroom in order to attain the curriculum goals. Sana pati po yung ating mga school leaders. If the school leaders are informed, then we provide teachers with a safe environment as well, so that they have the autonomy to do what they need to do in order to help their learners. And this is one of them, to make our learners, or to allow our learners use Filipino inside the language or the English classroom. Ayun po, Doc Che.
Wow, thank you so much, Ma'am Ayet. And then can I just share that yung last remark mo that maybe it would be better if school leaders are also involved in this process and are aware of what we're doing. Kasi nga the teachers are already doing this, no? I just want to share that we're very happy that in the training that I mentioned earlier, NAYAP actually, upon our request, sent school leaders as our participants. We have kasi this is an ongoing it's an ongoing training. The first stage just concluded yesterday. We were in Baguio. I just got back in Manila last night. And so the next stage is going to be in May, and the third one is going to be in June. And the participants include school principals, master teachers, and public schools district supervisors, PSDS. So that means these are people who can make decisions. And I can honestly say that from the sharing and the discussions that we've had and the exemplars that we gathered from their outputs, that slowly, Miss Ayet, nako, things are changing, things are transforming. So this is good news for everyone.
That's good to
Okay.
hear. Thank you, Doc Che.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, we have another question here, Doc Che, from the chat, and I think Ma'am Ruth is the best person to answer. Ma'am Ruth, because you've shared different strategies for teaching literacy and for teaching the target language, how can we evaluate strategy impact? So this is a question from Sir Ariel Valila Nabulo. Or Sir Ariel Valila from Nabulo Elementary School.
Thank you, Sir Ariel, for that. You go back to the purposes for using your strategy. I think teacher has to reflect, why am I using this strategy? That's why initially we don't want you to know the strategies. We want you to know the reason behind using the strategy. Many times we lose track of the very essence why we're using the strategy. Why are we using it in the first place? As mentioned, number 6, reflect. You do your own introspection now. When I choose a strategy, you go over your week-long lesson plan. Look at your strategy. In my strategy here, what was my purpose? So which is the commonly used purpose for doing your strategy? Am I missing something? Is it overly hit? So hot, I always use this and others not? Why? Why? And what's the strategy for? Is it for me so that teaching becomes easy? Or so that learning becomes easy for my students? you may initially, no, just to relate it to my discussion, look at the different purposes. Evaluate your own lesson plan. List down your strategy. Could you tell us what purpose you have there? Did you attain the purpose? Or you use so much time, it is not so effective, but you consumed so much time, where did learning go? Just look at this. And then later on, how do you match that strategy given the time for you to maximize? Many times we have a lot of strategies, doing so many activities, but losing the main focus, which is to deliver that idea or that lesson, that objective that we want them to attain. So we have the activity. Your strategies give you several activities, but activities, what for? What your activities want to attain is another thing. Did you reach that or not? That is the simplest way that I can evaluate how effective your strategies are.
Thank you. Do we have other questions that you want us to address? Meron pa ba? Oh yeah, I think there's.
There is something from Raimundo Constantino. In what ways can a teacher balance?
I think
I think we already
addressed
answered
that,
this,
yeah.
something
Yes,
that
yes.
about overwhelming and so
Already
on.
asked
Okay.
that earlier.
Yes.
Okay. Since it's already a few minutes before. Okay. Here's another question. Strategic from Sir Raimundo Constantino. Strategic translanguaging does not replace English learning. It enhances it. Oh, yes, that's right. That's what we've been saying. When done purposefully, it is not about using L1 all the time, but about using it as a scaffold, like what Ma'am Ruth mentioned. It helps students grasp difficult concepts, especially in early stages. Yes, that's right. And transition more. Oh, wait, meron ako nakita. And transition more confidently into an English-only community. Oh, kailangan bang mag-transition sa English-only communication? Remember that we are multilingual all throughout. Even if we transition to grade 4, kasi dun yung transition na nangyayari, di ba? Do our students stop becoming being bilingual and multilingual when they reach the higher year levels? Siguro, nakikita ko yung reaction ni Miss Ayet. And then I will say something after that. Sige, I think that's a point that we need to clarify. Miss Ayet and then si Ma'am Ruth then later. Go ahead.
Yes.
Kailangan ba ng transition?
Thank you, Doc Che. The shaping paper and the curriculum guides have always been very clear that there is no such thing as an English-only classroom. We acknowledge the presence of multilingualism in our classroom because we are a multilingual country and we have multilingual learners. And so to limit our learners to just one language, although it is the target language, is a misconception. Okay, so I hope that all of us agree and all of us understand that that is not the goal. Our goal is to create communicatively competent learners in English and Filipino and even in their mother tongue. We do not prioritize one language over the other. So the goal is not just English proficiency. The goal is communicative competence in all of the languages that are present inside the classroom. The goal is to make meaningful communication. The goal is to understand one another. And if in understanding one another and if in the process of meaning making, we have to make use of all of these tools, okay, at our disposal, then that's what we do and that's what we aim for as teachers. That's what we want our students to achieve. So it's not just English proficiency. We want them to be communicatively competent, but notice that in the curriculum goals, we did not say communicative competence in just English. It's always in all of these languages that are present inside the classroom.
Right. Ma'am Ruth, thank you, Ma'am Ayat.
Yes, thank you. I suppose Sir Raymond is coming from an idea when you have, for example, an exam like test of English as a foreign language or you have IELTS or international communication where you deal with the native speakers of English. Globally, we know we use English. I think that's what he is referring to when English only, not a policy, but English only is the language that can pass on that message that you want to with your interlocutors, with others that speak with you. But in our classroom context, I still see the point that yes, we allow them different language, but later on they need to show how well they are in acquiring that target language that we have. But not English only. In our classroom, English classroom, yes, proficiency in English. Yes, I think that's the context in clarifying what he means by English only. Let's not use the term English only. I think that's misleading.
yes.
Thank you.
Okay. I'd like to add to what Ma'am Ayet and Ma'am Ruth just clarified. If that is the case, then we have to remember that in multilingualism, speakers remain multilingual even if they are in a monolingual mode. And what is the
Yes.
monolingual mode? That is the example given by Ma'am Ruth earlier.
Yes.
For example, when you're taking a test that requires you to use only one language, not just English, you are in a monolingual mode, but you are still multilingual. You are not just using your other linguistic resources because the situation does not call for it. Okay, but we are always multilingual, and again, in that case, that's why Ma'am Ayet actually emphasized yung communicative competence. Kasi communicative competence requires not only the linguistic ability of the students or linguistic competence, meron pa siyang strategic competence, social linguistic, and discourse competence, no? And we have to remember that in developing all of this, yun yung communicatively competent eh. When developing all of this, students should know when to use what, how to use what, right? Languages together with English, when to use only English, when to use only their home language, and all of these things. Okay, so I hope that we clarified that. Thank you so much. And so although we are focusing on key stages 1 and 2 here, we have to remember that the use of the home languages may be heavy in the earlier grades, no? But they are, and they should still be allowed in the higher levels, in the upper grade levels. Again, only if you have a purpose, only if it's planned and deliberate. Ms. Ayet?
Yes, thank you very much, Doc Che. And relative to that, Sir Crisostomo is asking if there is a book where teachers could look for as a solid reference about pedagogical translanguaging. Doc Che, maybe you have any book recommendations that our teachers could use.
You can look at Garcia Seltzer et al. And Senos also. And siguro we can send you, or we can give you some list later on. Okay, but Garcia is what we're using. Garcia et al. Garcia Seltzer et al. That's what we're using for as our basic reference. I'm referring to Ophelia Garcia. Some of you are probably familiar with Ophelia Garcia. Okay, thank you. You can search her up actually, and then her work on pedagogical translanguaging is available online. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Ma'am Che, may I just add, taking off from what you mentioned on multilingualism and monolingualism, no? I think that's why we have different kinds of knowledge now. Our declarative knowledge, what we know, and that's part of language resources that we have, and our procedural knowledge, how we learn other things. But in the end, functional knowledge, when we use such knowledge given the context. And therefore, your monolingualism, once demanded, it doesn't mean you become monolingual too. You just manifest your knowledge of that target language, but it does not make you monolingual. It only reveals you know several languages, and that helps you understand this language. But right now, the demand, given the functionality of the language, the demand is for you to shift to that, to attain high score. considering it's IELTS or test of English as a foreign language. Because if you use your mother tongues and other things, that may not be. Hence, we have functionality, that functional knowledge that we use given declarative and procedural knowledge that we have earned in the classroom.
Thank you, Ma'am Ruth. Ma'am Ayet, you
Yes.
might want to reiterate your message in the chat box.
Yes. I'm always so grateful, Doc Che, to you, of course, and to the whole ASELT team for giving us this platform. Alam niyo po I'm known for being candid, Doc Che. Alam niyo po I just wanted to share. Ang tagal ko na pong gustong mag-Facebook Live o gumawa ng video so that all of our teachers could understand what the curriculum is all about and how we envision it to be delivered. Kaya lang po hindi pwede sa DepEd. And so we always wait for opportunities like this, and that's why I'm always thankful to ASELT for giving us this platform, for giving us a voice, to share with you what the curriculum is all about. Many of our teachers, and this is so surprising to me, many of our teachers do not know that they have access to the curriculum, na ito ay libre, na ito ay nasa DepEd website natin. And so it's puzzling for me. How are you going to teach if you don't have your hands on the curriculum guide? So that's the first step. Please read the curriculum guide. I always say this in all of the ASELT sessions. Read the curriculum guide. It starts out with a beautifully written shaping paper that will tell you the story behind the curriculum. It tells you all of the principles and the theories that we adhere to when we develop the curriculum and when we envision it to be delivered. Along the end of the curriculum guide, you will find there appendices that concretize the ideas that have been presented in the shaping paper. And if you read all of this document, kahit nga po hindi buo, yun lang pong mga tinuturuan ninyo. Okay, if you're a grade 1 teacher or a grade 2 teacher, focus just on the key stage 1 part of the curriculum guide. You read that, you read the shaping paper, take a look at the appendices relevant to the key stage that you are teaching. Focus on that, and I'm sure na kahit wala kami, you will understand the vision of this curriculum. Mahalaga po for a department as big as the Department of Education. We're 1 million strong. Number of teachers, number of non-teaching personnel, 1 million po tayong lahat. Kailangan po iisa ang kumpas natin. Especially as language teachers where there are so many misconceptions, where there are so many information that tend to misconstrue our actual understanding and the true understanding of the language theories and principles. Sana po, basahin po natin ang curriculum guide. If there are opportunities for you to join fora like this and discussions like this, please join them. Kahit walang memo ng DepEd, kapag nakita ninyo sa Facebook, libre naman po ito. Sumali po tayo out of our own accord so that we have a better understanding of the curriculum. The curriculum serves as our blueprint. Ito po ang Biblia natin bilang language teachers. So I hope that through this and by reading the curriculum guide itself, you attain a good understanding of our curriculum goals and how we want to attain those goals. Ano po yung ating roadmap in attaining those goals? Kasi kapag iisa po ang kumpas natin, then we are sure to address this learning crisis. There's a literacy crisis going on. Tulungan po natin yung mga bata natin, hindi lang matuto ng wika, kundi matuto magbasa at matuto maging magaling magbasa, maging magaling na tagagamit ng mga wikang ito. Ayun lang po, Doc Che. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that, Ma'am Ayet. I wanted to make sure that I gave you this time at least, kasi last time we didn't have enough time for that, for you to encourage our teachers to make use of the curriculum guide and again, access all the materials that you developed in DepEd. And I don't think we have enough time to address the rest of the questions and comments in the chat box, but rest assured that we're going to read them. And if possible, we would be able to, hopefully, we'll be able to address them in our next webinar. So thank you everyone for this engaging and insightful discussion. Please allow me this time to award our certificate of appreciation to our resource speakers and panel members. First is for Dr. Mary Ruth Gutierrez for sharing her invaluable insights for this webinar on teaching strategies for multilingual English language learners for key stages 1 and 2 this Saturday, April 26th, online. And also Miss Ayet Periols for doing the same also this Saturday. And both of them will join me and hopefully Brother Ricky Mortel in May. So can we give them a big round of applause for giving us their time and sharing their expertise? Thank you so much, Ma'am Ayet and Ma'am Mary Ruth Gutierrez. Okay, so we'd
Thank
also like
you.
to say thank you to everyone, but please stay. We're going to have a group photo. Alam nyo naman, very Filipino, kailangan meron tayong documentation. We also need this for our own documentation purposes. But before that, I'd like to invite everyone to our upcoming events. And as already mentioned, the last of the series, the webinar 3, is going to be on May 31. That's also a Saturday, this same time, 10 to 11:30, on teaching strategies for multilingual learners of English language learners. This time, we're going to focus on Key Stage 3. It should be Key Stage 3. Okay, I hope that some of you can still join us if this is relevant to you, or spread the word, invite your friends and colleagues if you think this is going to be helpful for them. Aside from this, we're also going to have our 57th ASELT Annual Conference Workshop on the teaching of literature in the 21st century ELT classroom, an age of multiliteracies and multimodalities, from June 26 to 28. That's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, at the Ateneo de Manila University. If you're interested, you can search us up on Facebook and IG and just type in ASELT and you'll find our announcements there. Another is our SEED 2.0, or Social Linguistics in English Education, from September to November of this year, fully online, and with Dr. Ruwani Tupas and me. Dr. Tupas, I'm sure, is very familiar to most of you, and he's going to join me again. We've been doing this for 3 years. This is the 4th year this year. And then we have our Teachers Club workshop on teaching the drama in August. So that's August 30, on August 30, 2025, Saturday also, but this is just a half day workshop from 9 a.m. to 12 noon, also on site at the Ateneo de Manila University. To those of you who are teaching theater or drama, this one is for you. And then by next year, we have the teaching English in multilingual settings or teams online certificate course from February to April 2026, fully online also. Like this one, the SEED SEED course is also an online certificate course. Before we end, please let us know what you think about today's event by filling out this evaluation form. I will copy the link in the chat box. I hope that you can share your feedback with us. You might also want to ask questions. There's a portion there where you can ask a question. So please do that. And thank you, everyone. Again, thank you, Dr. Mary Ruth Gutierrez and Ma'am Ayet Periols, for joining ASELT again for this webinar. And we thank everyone for joining us. And it's time for a group photo. So I'll stop recording. Oh, wait, huh? Yeah, I'll stop recording. Wait lang, I cannot find the button. Oh, I'll just stop recording later. But to those of you who would like their faces to be seen, you might want to switch on your camera, your video cam. And this is going to be done in I see 8 panels here, so 8 times. Okay, so just keep smiling. 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's 1. Second
Okay, so
one.
this time, witness po natin ang pag-slice. Thank you.
Bye. Am I still muted? Okay, third one. I hope you heard my, okay. You heard my announcements? Ma'am Ayet, narinig ba yung promotion ko
Opo,
ng
opo,
Yes,
ma'am.
yes, Doc.
I just realized I was muted. Okay, here. This is the fourth one. Switch on your camera. Madaming naka-off. This could be you. Okay, 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, this is the fifth one. Tired of doing this because this means teachers are interested in what we're doing. Thank you. Okay, we have the sixth one. And then seventh, this is the second to the last. And the last one. Okay. There you go. Ma'am Ruth and Ma'am Ayet, you might want to say your bye-bye to everybody. Bye,
Yes.
everyone.
Thank you so much for being with us. See you next time.
Thank you.
One last.
See you on the
And
last
the legacy
webinar.
goes on. Take care. Enjoy
Thank
the heat of the
you.
day.
Mga familiar faces and names. Thank you for
Thank
joining us.
you.
Bye-bye.
Yes, bye.
Bye. I'll end the meeting now. Thank you.